Life's worst days, they don't exactly check your calendar, right? They don't ask if it's a good time to show up. And the really scary part? Your next crisis, it might already be on the schedule, just waiting. So that leaves one huge question. Will you be ready? Today, we're going to dive into a pretty powerful framework for getting prepared for those moments we all hope never come. And we're drawing from the work of Dr. Phil McGraw.
So, Dr. Phil tells this incredible story from when he was just a teenager learning to fly. Picture this. He thinks he's got it all figured out, checked all the boxes, ready to take off. But his instructor, this old, wise flying cowboy, looks at him and says something that just sticks with you. He says, "You're not ready, because you're not prepared for when things go wrong." And of course they did. Things went very wrong. And that's not just a story about flying, it's a perfect metaphor for life, isn't it? Look, we can't just stick our heads in this sand and hope that if we ignore life's crises, they'll just disappear. It's that whole Scarlett O'Hara thing, right? I'll think about that tomorrow. But here's the thing. Tomorrow always comes. And if you're not ready for it, it can absolutely kick your butt. So think of this as our prep talk. This is your guide to actually being ready when it all hits the fan. All right, so let's get into it. The first thing we need to look at, and this is kind of counterintuitive, it's not the crisis itself. It's how you handle a totally normal, boring Tuesday. This all comes down to what Dr. Phil calls your personal attitude of approach. And here's the deal. Every single one of us has one of these, an attitude of approach, whether you know it or not. It's kind of like your brain's default operating system. So what's yours? Are you a victim or are you a hunter, a giver or a taker? It's the filter you see the whole world through, and believe me, it is running in the background 24/7. So that leads to the million-dollar question, right? If your default setting, the way you handle your job, your family, your life, isn't even working for you on a good day, what in the world do you think is going to happen when a hurricane hits? Yeah, it's a total recipe for disaster. Our emotional reactions, they feel like they just happen to us, like a random lightning strike. But they're not. There's actually a 4-step process. First, something happens, an event. But then, and this is the most important part, you interpret what just happened. That interpretation kicks off your internal dialogue. That little voice in your head that never shuts up. And only then do you actually respond. The magic, the real power is right there between step 2 and 3. You can actually choose how to interpret things and get a handle on that inner voice before it runs away with you. Okay, so let's see how this all starts to build up. Because long before a huge crisis blows up your life, there's usually this slow, quiet wearing down of your defenses. We gotta talk about the days in between the big moments and the hidden damage of daily stress. And this is a super important distinction to make. There are stressors and then there's stress. They're not the same thing. Stressors are all the external stuff. Your impossible boss, traffic, the kids screaming. But stress? That's your body's internal reaction to all that stuff. And you absolutely have to know the difference if you want to get a handle on it. And this quote just nails it. It's rarely one big thing that takes us down. It's the constant, relentless drip, drip, drip of all the little things. It really is like water torture. One single drop, it's nothing. But when those drops keep coming, day after day, it starts to feel like bricks are hitting you in the head. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine a 2x4 board stretched between two sawhorses. If you put a heavy weight on it for a minute and then take it off, the board just snaps right back into shape. But what happens if you leave that weight there for weeks, for months? The board starts to warp. It cracks. And eventually, it's just permanently bent out of shape. Well, your body and your mind, they're exactly the same under the constant weight of chronic stress. And that brings us to the main event. Because what happens when that already warped, cracked board gets hit with a sudden, massive weight? It shatters. These are the moments Dr. Phil calls the 7 most challenging days of your life. The days when your entire world just falls apart. And look, a major crisis can look like a lot of different things. It could be the gut-wrenching loss of someone you love. It could be a terrifying health diagnosis for you or someone close to you. Maybe it's a fight with addiction or what he calls an adaptability breakdown, that feeling where you're just completely, totally in over your head. What these days do is they threaten to just sever the connection you have with your authentic self. The you that existed before you found out that life is a full contact sport. The person you were before you got slammed, and slammed hard. And that is the feeling of an adaptability breakdown. It's when you look around and you just realize your life is a total train wreck. You've been trying so hard to hold all the pieces together, but you You can't anymore. You just don't even want to try. The will is just gone.
But here's the good news. It does not have to end there. A breakdown isn't the end of the story. Now we get to pivot from just looking at the problem to talking about the solution. It's time to start building our resilience toolkit, a set of real strategies to make us stronger.
So the game plan is pretty straightforward. It's a two-front attack. First, you've got to do what you can to reduce the number of stressors in your life. Get rid of the ones you can control. And second, for all the stuff you can't change, you have to learn to manage your internal reaction to it. You can't just do one. You got to do both. So what does that actually look like day to day? Well, here are a few powerful things you can start doing, like right now. Forgive yourself for past mistakes. Stop treating them like a life sentence. Laugh. Seriously, it's been shown to physically lower your blood pressure. Move your body. Exercise isn't just about calories, it burns off tension. And actually practice relaxation. Take 15 minutes a day to just be. And for those times when you're facing a problem that is so huge it's just paralyzing, you have to ask yourself that old question: how do you eat an elephant? The answer is one bite at a time. You have to stop looking at the whole overwhelming elephant, break the problem down into the tiniest possible pieces, and then redefine what success means. Success is no longer solving the whole thing, it's just getting through the next 15 minutes. That's it. Win the next 15 minutes, and then do it again. I love this piece of advice. It's all about a fundamental shift in your thinking. His father used to say, spend maybe 5% of your time worrying about whether you got a good deal or a bad deal in life, and spend 95% of your time figuring out what you're going to do about it. Stop getting stuck in why me and start living in what now. That is where all your power is. And really, it all boils down to this one simple truth. If you want different, you have to do different. Just sitting there and waiting for things to change, that's your enemy. The fastest way to short-circuit emotional pain is to get busy. Take action, any action. You have to get out of your comfort zone and start moving, even crawling, in the direction of the life you actually want. So, we're ending right back where we started. Your crises, they're coming. You can bet on it. They're already on the schedule. And the outcome? Well, that's going to be decided by what you do or what you don't do between right now and then. So the only question that matters is the one we started with. Will you be ready?